coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning.
Hello everybody and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast, the September edition. It's been a long time since we've been here. I know it's actually October now, but let's not worry about the details. It's our chance to look back over the month of September. I think we can safely say a pretty successful month of September, which is very enjoyable. I hope we're going to enjoy talking about that, but we're also going to talk about lots of other stuff that's been going on around the club over the last month. Introductions, I am Matt H. I'm glad to say I'm joined by Pete. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Matt. Sorry to say that we're a Matt down today, but we'll try and do our best.
We will do our best. I know for anyone who was looking forward to listening to the dulcet tones of Matt V, I'm afraid he has a variety of internet issues where he is, or at least that's what he's told us. But I have no reason to disbelieve him because I think he enjoys doing this with us. So I think we'll miss him, but we'll carry on and hopefully we'll have him back when we meet again at the end of October or start of November. So hello to Matt and hope to have you back soon. Right. Well, let's get to it then. There's no other way of saying it. September we can only classify as a success. I'll go through very quickly the results. We beat Cardiff 3-2. We beat Newcastle 2-1, both in the Premier League. We then beat Wolfsgla. I'm still not saying that right, I'm sure. At home in the Europa League 4-2. We beat Everton 2-0 in the Premier League. We beat Brentford 3-1 in the League Cup. And we beat Watford 2-0 in the Premier League as well. Pete, was that most of those games, it seems? You're at the last four of those, weren't you? That's quite a run.
Well, I did, I have to admit, drop out of one of the 4 home games in 10 games. I really couldn't, 10 days. I couldn't take it. I just thought, no, I will have to miss one. So I missed the Everton game, actually.
I missed Everton. Well, it was quite a run, and I'm not surprised that you had to have a little break. We are actually, because we've slightly, because of the various problems this week, we've not recorded as early in the week as we would have liked. So we are not going to ignore the fact that we also beat Karabag in the Europa League this week 3-0 in Azerbaijan. So we'll include that in September, even though I know it's not really. There's no other way to say it, but that's how many games that is. I haven't counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 games in September and the one in October. 7 wins in 3 different competitions. We'll get into some details as we go on, but there has been some criticism that. Not criticism, that's not fair. There's been some caveats that this was a relatively easy run of games. Watford's result today in the Premier League would seem to suggest that as well. But Pete, I just had a general overview from you, if you like, on it's never bad to be winning games. Hopefully it's a good habit.
I tend to think 8 wins on the spin is a good thing. I'm pretty determined not to have any pessimistic view of it. I think it has been against reasonably unconvincing opposition, but we have performed well, and we've had some dodgy moments, and not all that, and we've had some lucky moments. But I think you can't, at the end of the day, you can't put 8 wins on the spin, whoever they're against, down to luck and nothing else. Something has changed. Something has changed.
Something
is going much better than it was. And I know none of us can actually seem to identify what it is that's changed, or how it's changed, or why it's been so good for these past 8 games, really, because there have been, as I say, very dodgy moments, and we all know them. We can't. But I can only look back at that and celebrate it and think, actually, wow. I can assure you, the last time we spoke about football, anyway, on a podcast, we were going into this September run, and absolutely no way I think any of us would have thought we'd win the next 6 games, whoever they were against. And I think it's just been fabulous.
Good. I'm just, because you're something has changed, and I don't know if you can dance like a robot, because I can see a Theresa May Impersonator career in your future. I know she said sort of the opposite of that, but the way you said that's very good. There's so if you ever need things ever go wrong, here's your chat.
I'm glad you spotted my mentor.
We'll move on swiftly. I mean, I tend to agree. Of course, it's 8 games if we include the West Ham game at the end of August, which of course we should. Of course we should. Yeah, I mean, I agree. There have been the odd dodgy moment. some more clean sheets would have been nicer, but we've managed to get 3 in the last 4 games, so that's an improvement. Well, and we'll talk about some aspects of the way the team have played in a minute. There was even a little thing in the Guardian, I think yesterday, about the quiet revolution at Arsenal, Emery, blah blah. It's a little thin on detail, I thought, in terms of, and let's face it, we are only in October, early October of the first season, so I think that's fair enough. But yeah, there's obviously something going on. Is it an accident? Is it coincidence, or is it actually based on other stuff that's going on? And I think there's probably a bit of everything in there, but I think the manager probably has to take some credit in terms of the way he does seem to be approaching things slightly differently. The one thing I've noticed over a few pieces that have been written is this idea that he spends a little more time on the opposition. The idea was with Arsene Wenger, it was just about if Arsenal play like Arsenal can, they should win the game. And there's something to be said for that straightforward approach. But Emery apparently is someone who will spend hours getting the videos ready and looking at the opposition and addressing those particular issues. So it's a different approach. And
I suppose if that is one of the things that's changed and one of the things we're doing slightly better, I mean, that's actually quite impressive from him anyway, isn't it? Because this will be the first time he's been faced with this opposition that he's facing in this league. And, if it is that's actually got us to a point where we're getting better results than we certainly were last season, then, he deserves every credit for it, even as well, the other thing I wonder is just, that the players are responding to him. Whether everything is perfect is not the case, but they do. It must be that they are responding to him. Whether they're doing what he wants, or to be honest, whether he even knows what he's doing, because it does appear over the course of it. He still doesn't really seem to have a settled team, does he? Which is fine in my opinion, but he doesn't. People are saying, and we were saying before that it's odd that he doesn't see it. It was like an extended pre-season, that it was sort of trying to find his best team, or it looked like he was trying to find his best team. But it seems that's just carried on, and he hasn't really. He's picked teams to possibly, as you say, just to suit or what he believes will suit that opposition.
Yeah. Well, let's start looking into some of those bits and pieces. Then we won't go through every game in detail because we haven't got the time or indeed inclination. I mean, some of those games were closer than perhaps they should have been. Others, perhaps Watford, we were slightly fortuitous to get a 2-0 win with 2 late goals, but ultimately we did the job. Let's look then. I've got a little list of areas I thought we might look at. I'm just wondering where to start. Well, let's start with the obvious one. There's 2 fairly big bits of news this month. We'll start with Aaron Ramsey. It's come out this month that the story is that there was a new contract on offer. The club then took it away, and it looks like he's going to be off either in January if we want to get some cash for him, or in the summer. I mean, obviously things could change, but that seems to be where we are at the moment. I was going to talk also about how he'd been in the team, because within a couple of days I saw 2 reports, one saying essentially he didn't seem to find a place, another one saying how good he'd been in a particular game. So no one seemed to be quite sure about him. And of course we've seen him. There seems to have been potentially an effect in terms of the contract information, as it were, in terms of how he's been used. What's your thoughts on? I think it's about 10 years he's been at Arsenal. If he's going to go, and how you see him playing over the next few months, any thoughts if this indeed is going to be his last few months at Arsenal?
Well, I think I'm a big fan of Aaron Ramsey, and I'll be sad if and when he leaves the club, which does look, as you say, increasingly likely. So, but regards this season and his performances, and whether the club can survive without him, which I must say previously I'd have been quite worried about. I think possibly we're in a much better position than we were. I think he probably has had one standout game. I'm sorry, but I really can't remember it. But other than that, I think he struggled to find a place, or rather, actually, I believe, sort of looking back over all these games, I would say to some extent there haven't been any standout players, have there? Do you think that? I mean, I wouldn't say there's anyone I can look at and say, who has been the standout player? Because the team's changed quite a lot, if anything, and there's been changes within games as well that have changed them, and sometimes it's been that player that's affected that game or whatever. But I can't think of anyone I would say has been a real standout player. The team has come together, which is and has worked better as a team. And if anything, sad though I am to see it, I think Aaron Ramsey probably hasn't functioned as well in these teams as he did previously.
You get the impression, don't you, with Emery, and again, we're all making these judgments on not a massive amount of information, at least in terms of his Arsenal career. He wants players to fit into certain roles, and perhaps someone like Ramsey, who is more of a floater, which I think was a way I saw him describe some of the other day, which all kinds of unpleasant images, is you can understand they might not be willing to break the bank for him. Let's put it that way. When there are perhaps other more functional players who might fit into a system that the manager might be more aligned to. I think you make a good point about the lack of any sort of standout individuals over the last month. I dare say people listening will have their own favourites, but I tend to agree, and I think I've always thought, for some time, I've wondered about our midfield and just the sheer number of people trying to cram in there. And obviously you want backup, but you probably, I think every team's better, isn't it? With if we said, what's your first 11, the manager can just name them, Obviously you need to make changes and adapt now and again, but if you had your pick of an 11, you want to do it. And whereas I've been okay with some of the areas of the team that none of them are settled, of course, but that midfield has always seemed a slightly crowded in terms of the number of players who could be in there, how many we have. And, you've got Ozil, who's got to go in there. You've got Xhaka and Torreira, who you think can go in. Guendouzi's obviously been making a bit of a splash, and others as well. So, yeah, it's a shame if he's off. But on the other hand, it might be a good thing for the club and indeed for the player. He apparently has talked about playing overseas before. If he gets the chance to do that, then good luck to him. But you make a good point, I think, about it's not quite the disaster that it could have been in previous years. And I don't think there's any doubt we'll get everything out of him. I think he'll continue to play for the club, and I don't think he'll get a strop about it. Yeah.
And that's whether he plays until January or until the end of the season, I think.
Absolutely.
He will do his best for the club, and he is a great player, and and although he may not be shining in the way that he is, if we keep him, he'll perform. As I say, he hasn't been bad in this run of games. He just maybe hasn't been performing the way that we're used to him having done so in the past.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from him then, and let's go into the what was the next bit I was going to do? Well, that's the defence, sort of as a whole. Now, there was a lot of talk about no clean sheets, but the Everton game there was a clean sheet, and the Watford game there was a clean sheet, and in Qarabağ in midweek there was a clean sheet. So things are perhaps slightly coming together. Now, in the Everton team, it was Socrates or Socrates, I'm never quite sure which way to say it, and Mustafi in central defence, even though they're much maligned. Now, the impression over the last month has been people still have doubts, should we say, about Mustafi, but that Socrates is perhaps being seen as a little more steady than perhaps he was at first. You've obviously been to a number of those home games. We've both watched, I'm sure, all the other games anyway. And of course, there's the goalkeeping situation as well, which we'll come to in a minute. But in terms of the back four, Rob Holding, of course, turned up for the Watford game, I think. What's your thoughts on that defence now? Are you feeling a little more reassured? I've started to feel a slightly more secure in them over the last couple of games.
Yeah, I think certainly, as you say, Socrates is growing into it. And I don't wish to be mean, but Mustafi is still Mustafi, and that is a problem. I would actually like to see Holding and Socrates for a while as a centre-back pairing, and drop Mustafi to see if actually that makes us a bit more secure. But to be fair to Mustafi, the reason we've given away a number of goals in this game hasn't all been about him. It has been about, well, as I say, you can't put your finger on it, can you? This is the odd thing. I don't think anyone can understand what has happened with that defence, because although, yes, it's given away goals, it hasn't looked bad. And it hasn't had lots of horrific errors going on all the time, as possibly you did see in the past. We have given away goals, and I don't know. I think, as I say, certainly Socrates growing into the role has helped recently, and that's certainly making things look better. But I do think we do have to look at all those 3 clean sheets, and well, none of them were really deserved, were they? So I'm not entirely sure that anything's getting that much better yet.
To be fair, everything we hear at the club does seem to say we know there's still work to do, or some variation of that. So perhaps they're fully. I'm sure if we're aware of them, I certainly hope they are. So yeah, let's hope they're keeping an eye on that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at my notes, and they seem to be a list of player names, actually, quite a lot of them, because of some interesting things about players that have come up. We'll stay at the back for the moment, though, and there's been talk about why have we bought a new goalkeeper, spending lots of money, and then he's not playing. But it seems he is going to be playing now due to an injury to Petr Cech. I wondered on your thoughts on the goalkeeper situation. Leno, as I understand, will be in for about a month, and then obviously we'll have to see how things go. Cech has been maligned for this, the ability to play out with his feet, as we discussed, I think, in the previous pod. But as a goalkeeper, I think he's done rather well over the last month when he was playing. Any early thoughts on that situation? Any early thoughts on Leno? I mean, I don't know if you've seen very much of him really. I mean, he played in at Karabakh, didn't he? But I don't think there's been. Does he played any else? He played in the League Cup game, did he?
He did, yes, and he played in the Vorskla game.
Oh, of course, yes. Sorry, I was forgetting that one. Yes, it was quite a forgetable game, that one. Yes.
And it came on against Watford, of course.
Of course.
And made a couple of decent saves. I mean, I think we were all a bit terrified, weren't we, with the idea that we'd heard that, he basically wasn't playing because it
wasn't good enough, which is not what you want to hear.
And, certainly so far, he seems to have demonstrated he is good enough. And, it's been great to see someone like that come in. After Cech having performed so well, and to be honest, I think I said before, I didn't care less about the fact he couldn't particularly play very well with his feet. That's not a goalkeeper's job most of the time, and he was doing it. None of the goals we gave away during that period were down to his inability to play out from the back, as far as I could see.
No,
and
there was
a lot of the goals we didn't concede were down to his ability as a goalkeeper. And I think the thing that we've seen in the last couple of games is at least that Bernd Leno can save shots as well as play a bit of football. So, hopefully that's a really good sign going forward.
2 more players then to touch on briefly before we have a little break. Iwobi and Torreira. Now, we'd been talking, we may even mention it in the last pod, I don't recall, but we talked about when is Torreira going to start? Well, against Everton will seem to be the answer to that, and in the league at least. So he started on the game against Everton on the 23rd, and has started in the game subsequent to that at Watford. And I think, unless there's any injury I'm not aware of, we'll assume he's going to start at Fulham tomorrow. You can take him as an individual, or I just wanted to mention Iwobi, who seems, particularly on the evidence of the last couple of games, to be what's the word I'm looking for? Really enjoying his football for the first time, perhaps a long time, and seems to be relishing the role he's been given. I wondered if you had any thoughts on those two that you'd like to throw in here.
I think certainly with the Iwobi, we saw it first in the Chelsea game, didn't we? And despite losing the game, he was a very bright point in that game. And it's really nice to see him having taken a big step forward, which he didn't seem to have taken for the past 2 or 3 years, I guess, and that's been really good to see, and good on him for doing it, and maybe that is the impact of a new manager who's able to get the best out of him in a different way, and someone he reacts to better, and that's fantastic. As for Torreira, it just seems amazing now that it took so long to get him starting games. This was what, the 6 games before he has become a permanent fixture, and now he surely won't not start any league games. But he really does seem to make the difference in midfield. As I say, I'm not sure if you can say he's been the standout player, but he's certainly been the player who, whenever he's on the pitch, things seem to knit together. And he brings people together, and has just been a marvellous addition.
Good. Well, we can move on from there. That's a very good place to leave the first half. Bear with us a second, and we'll be right back after this. How would you like a free case of craft beer? Well, as a listener to our show, we'd like to thank you for listening with the help of our friends at beer52.com. Just go to beer52.com/bytheminute to claim a free case. Beer52 is the world's most popular monthly craft beer discovery club, searching out incredible and exclusive small batch craft beers from the world's greatest breweries and bringing them back for their members. There's a whole world of craft beer out there, and this is your chance to get on board with discovering it. Every month focuses on a new country or theme, and if you sign up now, you'll get the chance to try a case of the best British craft beers as part of their Summer Bangers selection for free, featuring the country's best craft brewers such as Northern Monk, Ilkley, Red Willow and Thornbridge. You'll be able to read all about the beers and learn more about how they are made in the 100-page Ferment magazine included in the box. As a listener of our show, you can try your first case for free. Just pay £2.95 postage. That's 8 incredible craft beers, Ferment magazine and a snack delivered with a free next day shipping. It's a no-brainer. There's no minimum commitment. You can take the free case, try the beers and see what you think. If it's not for you, you can pause, cancel anytime. Beer52 has a 5-star rating on Trustpilot, so it's easy to see that their members love the service. We deliver 8 craft beers, the award-winning Ferment magazine and a tasty snack with different themes every month. Past themes have included California, Norway, Belgium, Amsterdam and even Norway, to name a few. Compare and contrast these incredible beers with the help of the tasting guides in the 100-page Ferment magazine, featuring interesting articles about what's in the glass from some of the best writers in the beer world. Don't like dark beers? You can tailor the box to your preferences. You can also rate and review all the beers you've collected on our website. Rated 9.2 on Trustpilot, young UK startup Beer52 is now the largest craft beer club in the world. 1 per household, new customers only, part of a monthly subscription with no minimum commitment. If you choose to stay, you will be delivered 8 craft beers, Ferment magazine and a snack with free delivery for just £24. Full terms at beer52.com/terms. Just visit www.beer52.com/bytheminute and claim your free case today. Right then, I wanted to go through a couple of other little things to see what you thought about them. We'll finish off with the players after one more pair of players to discuss. Lacazette and Aubameyang. They've been playing in all those league games that we mentioned this month. There's some thought that perhaps it's not quite working out in terms of as a pairing because the system doesn't allow it. But they're scoring goals between them, so it's something I'm willing to go a bit more with. I think. Pete, any thoughts on the way those two are playing?
I think the pairing's working for Lacazette. I'm not sure it's working for Aubameyang.
Yes,
and but he seems reasonably happy. And as I say, I think there's something here about the ability to change things within the game that this manager seems to have, and be able to see things work. That seems to be that hasn't really mattered too much. That although things aren't perfect, he's found ways to make them better within a game. And I think that pairing has been at times problematic, but but there are changes we've been able to make to get through the game and get the result we want. So I don't think it's anything he's going to stop doing soon, because I think that there's a good chance it will continue to be a reasonably good pair. And if Aubameyang gets back into a scoring run of form, then maybe it will get even better.
Yes, which would be nice. More goals, the better. Very quickly, just to touch on our cup competition performance. Obviously, we're playing Blackpool this month in the League Cup, and I think we saw with United against Derby, the value of sending out a decent team, which we did for that game. So obviously United tripped up there, and obviously we've perhaps more importantly we've won our first 2 games in the Europa League, which puts us in a good position already. And I think there might be this idea of let's get into it quickly. Let's get into a strong position quickly, so we can then perhaps rest people later on in the competition, or at least in the group stage. Very quickly, any thoughts on our sort of cup, our cup progression? So we're looking pretty good in both of them.
As I said last time we spoke, I was asking if anyone knew sort of what the manager had done previously in the Europa League and how he'd played, and it's been really interesting to see the difference that he's taken in approach. In that it hasn't been in any way two separate teams. It hasn't been, this is my league team, this is my Europa League team, and that Europa League, both squads and teams have been strong and have and again had further strength there on the bench should you need it, and it hasn't in any way been his bunch of kids, and I think that's been a really interesting and quite refreshing approach. It's clear that he wants to take it. It's clear he wants to take it seriously, and as you say, hopefully wants to get the group over and done with as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, just to take the most recent game against Karabag as an example, bringing on Lacazette, Ozil and Torreira when you are, I don't know what the exact score was at each time this player comes on, when you're leading anyway, was it's something I don't think we'd have seen. When you're leading. A totally different approach, isn't it? And one that presumably works on the basis that he feels it's better to keep the players playing rather than avoid injury. And maybe that's right. Maybe that's one of the reasons that this run has been so good, is that the players have been, more than anything, just kept ticking over. They haven't been given long rests, and they're keeping ticking over. They're keeping being involved. The whole squad is involved on occasions. Because of the changes within the game, and everyone is involved, and it's much more of a squad team effort. Yeah, I mean, looking at the 11 that started, obviously there was Kolasinac and Smith Rowe and Lichtsteiner that would not necessarily be starting regularly now, and Nenny and Guendouzi. But they've all, I take your point, they've all been around the squad and getting involved in one way or another. And there is more of a squad feel, I suppose, rather than two teams, if you want a better word. Yeah. So, we'll certainly take that. I got the impression Ozil wasn't massively impressed to be coming on when he did. That's fair enough, I suppose. We're back to his demeanour again, and we're not going to try and second guess that, because I think that's not fair and may cause problems. Right, we'll move on then for the moment from the actual the results and the performances over the past month. Other than say, generally speaking, we're pleased. Work in progress. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, that's all we'll be doing this. I had a thought about something we'll do, and I'm not going to keep a record of this, but something we might do occasionally. Your chance, if you had to give a percentage of the chance of Arsenal finishing in the top four in the league at the moment, where would you be? I mean, obviously City and Liverpool and Chelsea are looking quite good, but then there's United, right? United have just won this evening. It was coming back against Newcastle. Spurs doing okay, but Arsenal are staying in touch because of their recent run of results. If you had to put a percentage chance on the top four, where would you go?
I had to. I feel reasonably confident, actually. I feel 50-50, to be honest.
That's funny, because I think I was just thinking about it as I asked, and I think that's probably what I'll say. I think we'll come back to this perhaps at some point, so maybe every month over the next few months. But I think that's not a bad idea. I mean, at the moment, I'm just looking at a table now. I don't think that's been updated. No, I think it has been updated after the United game. We're still ahead of United then. We're only 2 points off the top four, with Bournemouth sitting ahead of us in fifth. But of course, if we win tomorrow. In fact, if we win tomorrow, we could go above Chelsea, though, of course, Chelsea are also playing. So
I think it's odd, as you say, because none of us have really got any idea why we've had this excellent run. We have to say it's an excellent run. So, it's difficult to know whether how long that continue, and what will happen over the next month may tell us a bit more about where the team's going. Possibly by the end of November we'll have a better idea. But as I say, at the moment things are so uncertain, or we don't really seem to understand why what is happening that I think it's difficult to put, if we don't know why we've won the last 8 games in a row, who knows, we could fail to win the next 8 in a row.
Yes.
And And so at this point, let's go 50-50.
I mean, yeah, and the fact that Bournemouth are in fifth, the fact that Wolves are in seventh, obviously there's a lot to go. The fact that actually, despite me saying Chelsea are doing okay, of course they've actually drawn their last two, and whereas Spurs have lost a couple, they've won their last three in terms of league games. That's why they're above. So yeah, there's obviously stuff that can change around, but yeah, we'll see how we go. And of course, City and Liverpool both play tomorrow and play each other. In fact, tomorrow. So we could, in theory, be 2 points off the lead tomorrow. So if I'm doing my maths right. So, but yes, it's obviously a
that is possible.
I think 50-50 is a pretty good guess. Right. One thing I was going to mention then before we move on to looking ahead, and you can say as little about this as you like, because I'm not sure I have very much to say, but I thought I should mention it as we're doing a sort of monthly roundup. Even Gazidis, I don't know what he is, chief executive, I think. He's off. He's off to Milan at some point in the future. I think I read December something about that. That may be changing. Do you have anything to say on this at all? I feel I should mention it. I don't think we necessarily have to discuss it in any detail.
Bye.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, I think I don't know how much credit he has for the system we are putting in place. Obviously, probably some. And the manager, he seems to have been involved in that. So we should probably, say thanks to that. But that was his job, I suppose. And I believe he's going to be trousering a fair profit by going to Milan. But I think he knows the guy there. So good luck to him. But I think we can manage without him. Would be my sort of, because I don't mean there'll be a void. I mean there'll be other people who will step in, and it'll be a good chance to see how it works. But it seems slightly odd.
There seems to be some concern that we might get Josh Kroenke in there, and with the club going into private hands. But it seems to me the worry there is about about Kroenke taking it into private ownership more than anything else. Anyway, despite who cares who the CEO is under those circumstances?
Yeah, the whole private ownership thing is a different issue, isn't it? And let's face it, fundamentally, nothing's really changed because he had all that money anyway. And yes, there may not be the AGM and the other things, but in terms of the pitch, I'd hope we don't see any fundamental change. I wouldn't expect us to, looking at the way he runs his franchises elsewhere and what have you. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, if someone comes in who's got the experience and expertise, fine, get them in. But yeah, I can see that concern, but I don't think Gazidis being there or not is going to make the difference.
No, and I don't think winning the last 8 games on the spin has anything to do with Ivan Gazidis. So.
I don't think he was. No, he wasn't doing the training or doing anything else.
Yeah. Bye.
There's a thought. Right, so bye to Ivan, whatever he is, even Ivan. Well, let's look ahead then, very briefly. Let's look ahead to the games we have in October. Now, obviously, we've cheated with the Carabao game. We've already had that. So we've still got a mix. We've got 5 more games in 3 different competitions. So away at Fulham tomorrow in the league. Home to Leicester. Oh, it's a Monday night game on the 22nd. Away to Sporting Lisbon on the Thursday after that. And then away at Palace on the following Sunday. And then back at home against Blackpool on the final day of October the 31st. And that's in the Carabao Cup, of course. So it's a slightly odd month in that we've had these 2 games right at the start of it, and then we have 4 in the last 9 days, which is slightly odd. Pete, anything in there you'd like to pick out as of any particular interest or excitement?
Well, I think tomorrow's game against Fulham is going to be quite a test. Potentially. I know that they're 17th in the league, but they seem to be quite a different team this season, and they have Mitrovic playing rather well, scoring quite a lot of goals, and I think that could be again. It's the sort of game that last season we would be worried about, and and although we've dealt with sort of quite tricky-looking away games in terms of Cardiff and Newcastle at the beginning of last month, it will be interesting to see if we can still cope with that. It is at least a London derby, which we have an excellent record in across London derbies in general. But yeah, I think that might be quite a test to start the month with. And if things go well, I can see the rest of the month going pretty well.
It's another one of those nice ones, isn't it? Where if we do get a decent result tomorrow, we can then enjoy it for a couple of weeks. International break, we could all do without those. But if we're going to have them, we might as well go into it on the back of a win than not. So yes, I agree. That would be a nice way to get the month.
You say that there's potential for going in there and going into that international break in 3rd place in the league and only 2 points off the top.
which should be lovely. Really,
Yeah.
I think, given all the changes that are happening, and let's face it, will continue to happen over the next few months. I think there's still transfer windows where things are going to change and all that kind of stuff. So that would be nice as a starting point, at least. I mean, I think all the league games are obviously important, but I'm going to note the sporting game, I think, just in as much as to see what kind of team we're going to see there. Because in theory, now I can't be bothered to do the maths, but in theory, we could probably virtually secure qualification if we were to win that game. Probably not quite, of course, because the other two teams would be bound. One of them would be bound to get some points when they play. But it would be interesting to see the team play. It'll be interesting to see the performance. If we can get a win, it will then be interesting to see the reverse fixture. I think Emery obviously likes his competition. He's had a great record in it. Let's see if we can continue that for him. I would be fascinated to see how that game goes. As we've talked about the last couple of years, I think the Europa League is a nice change. It's you learn about different places, different teams, different players, all that kind of stuff. It's a little more exotic almost in the Champions League, really. I mean, Portugal isn't, but some of the places you go are a little more exciting than you might get in the Champions League, where this tends to be the same old stuff. This sounds like the classic excuse for a team that hasn't been good enough to get in the Champions League. But I appreciate that. But it is, it's interesting. So
I certainly learnt a lot about Azerbaijan last night.
Oh, there we are.
On Thursday night.
Thursday night, yeah, absolutely. There you go. Right. Well, we're nearly done, but we have to do our predictions. And last month, we all got 1 point, so we needn't have bothered. I said we'd beat Everton 2-0, and we beat them 2-1. Matt said we'd beat Everton 3-1, and beat them 2-0. And you said we'd beat Cardiff 2-1, and we beat them 3-2. So we all predicted wins, but we didn't get the scores quite right. Now, we've already had a result for the October prediction already, which, as Pete knows, because it was him. You said we'd beat Karabakh 2-0 and we beat them 3-0, so you get a point for that.
Yes, that
so
evil Matteo Guendouzi.
Yes, it was all. I thought that it was all going very nicely for you. And,
what did he think he was playing at?
Because we thought we were going to try and do this earlier in the week. So Pete got his prediction earlier, and then we stuck with it. So you can tell we're not cheating, because we'd have got it right if we were cheating. I have gone for us to beat Leicester 2-1. On the Monday night game in a couple of weeks, and Matt has gone for a 3-1 win over Fulham tomorrow. So that'd be lovely if these all come off.
Yes.
So overall, me and you, Pete, both have 2 points, and Matt has 1. But Matt and me, for that matter, both have sort of games in hand on you, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's all very close at this early stage. It would be nice if one of us.
Can we just confirm I am leading at the moment?
Joint leading, yes. We don't have sort of goal difference or anything to separate, but so I don't quite know how we'll do it if it comes to it. We'll have to have an arm wrestle or something. But yes, you are currently joint top if you want to take that approach.
Thank you.
Right, so there you are. That's another thing that you might be able to enjoy going into the international break, depending on what happens to Fulham in Fulham. Right then,
I'd be very happy with a 3-1 win to Arsenal. So
yes,
come on, Matt.
I think we will be right. Well, I think we'll wrap things up there. I think we've covered quite a lot there. Well, thank you, Pete. Thank you, Matt, for sending his prediction in, and we'll hope to have him back next time we do this. I'm not sure when the best one's going to be. It's not going to be October, because we have that game on the very last day of October. So it will be sometime, hopefully after Halloween, but before fireworks night. There we are. That's our plan to get that in. Anyway, Pete, thank you very much for your company.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope the next time we speak, it's just as much fun.
I know it's a nice these podcasts last season and for some time turned into quite often sort of therapy sessions or cathartic sessions or something. But this is strangely comfortable, and it'd be nice if we could get used to that again. If we were doing this sort of, where are we, 15 years ago, it would have been the norm. But God, that's when we feel old and nostalgic. I think it's time we finish. So anyway, thanks again, Pete, and thank you everyone for listening, and we will be back in a few weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.